All right. Welcome, Space Dancer Khan, Team Claradora, Oxy, Darren, Brass. Thanks so much for being here. Hugh, thanks for joining. Come on down to stage chat, AMA chat. And we should be good to go. Hello, hello. All right, so a little different this time. I do have an agenda like normal to go through, but haven't fleshed out my thoughts as much as usual, so it's going to be a bit more on the fly, talking through these different points, which I think is good. Indeed, change things up a little bit, but I think overall the flow should more or less be familiar, so let's go ahead and get right into it. The first thing I did want to remind everyone is that Prion will be launching in different stages. So that first launch of Prion's stage, or first stage of Prion's launch, will be opening the depositing of collateral, borrowing of star. All of that will be available. And the goal of this phase, of course, is to increase awareness of star as a stablecoin and really start to incentivize star liquidity via our partners. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. But yes, incentivizing Star via our partners such as Kronos, which we've talked about in depth. What's up, Sinner? After this initial stage has then had enough time to mature, people are familiar with the depositing and borrowing, minting, redeeming process, then we can go ahead and move forward with the next stage of Prion's launch, which will be the Prion token, the VE33 tokenomics with vAPR, and Prion's farms with oPrion, and the Star LP farms within Prion itself. So that will be additional incentives for the Star stablecoin in terms of liquidity, and of course it will add that entire new dimension of VE33 tokenomics to Prion itself. Also a step towards the decentralization of Prion with vEPrion governance, fee revenue going to vEPrion, which of course Sphere will have an allocation of. So just wanted to remind everyone of that, about those two phases of Prion's launch, and to keep that in mind as we move forward. But I think having that set up in that way will kind of help people walk into it much more readily, or perhaps easily. Hey T1, how's it going? Oh yeah, way back. T1 and I are tight. All right, Kronos. So we've heard that Kronos's concentrated liquidity gauges will debut the 27th, so not very long away at all. So hopefully that comes to fruition, and we will see, based on what they have said, multiple stable and volatile pairs, mostly based on what they showed, different USDC varieties, as well as WETH, WBTC, and also ARB, having the ARB token incorporated into their pairs for their concentrated liquidity gauges as well. So pretty interesting. Of course, they will be having more coming along in the future, but those were the initial offerings that they were suggesting. All of their concentrated liquidity pairs will have a single optimized pool with set ranges. And of course, Dyson will be the automatic liquidity manager client for Kronos, and we have gone through extensive backtesting of our concentrated liquidity solutions in order to determine those different optimized ranges for these vaults. That's part of our solution that we're offering through Dyson as an ALM, for which Kronos is truly our first launch partner with that. So great to see. Using that as a segue into more Dyson info, I saw some. So basically, there weren't that many AMA questions this week, which is again okay. But what I did was I went through the different chats in the Sphere Discord and wanted to talk about different points based on things that I was seeing there, questions, concerns, that sort of thing. So the first thing that came up was actually about Dyson's impermanent loss with respect to the Uniswap v3 vaults. So I wanted to talk about a few things with that. The first being that all LPs will incur some amount of impermanent loss. It is basically avoidable as a liquidity provider. And when you have concentrated liquidity solutions, you're going to have increased swap fees because of that increased virtual liquidity depth. But with those tighter LP ranges, you are going to incur more impermanent loss. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was a tweet by CZ the other day, Binance guy, who said that impermanent loss is often permanent loss, which I agree with. I think that's a more fitting understanding of it. I know we call it impermanent loss, but the reality is that when you end up realizing your gains or losses, it becomes a permanent loss. So one way or another, that's just a small segue. Dyson is actively managing these positions, these concentrated liquidity positions, so that you don't have to, meaning it is setting the range, it's setting the price range, and based on predetermined parameters, once the price of one or two of the assets moves out of a specific range, it is going to rebalance that position to ensure that it can capture as many fees as possible. Now, what that does is it locks in the impermanent loss, right? Because you are selling, rebalancing the position. So there's a trade-off between the management of that concentrated position and the swap fees that you are earning. Now, one thing that we do that sets us apart that helps reduce the amount of loss during those swaps is that we use 1-inch integration in order to minimize slippage. And that's actually a pretty significant factor considering if you're a large position managing concentrated liquidity within a protocol and you have to rebalance, typically you would then be rebalancing against your own pool. So you can incur significant slippage. But by routing through 1-inch, we have very clean swaps and don't incur as much slippage as a result. So this is all talk, right? What really makes a difference is for people to actually be able to see, okay, this is the impermanent loss, and this is the swap fee revenue, and this is the difference. So we do have improved metrics that are coming soon to Dyson that will actually show that vault gain versus the impermanent loss for these Uniswap v3 liquidity pools. I know that's a big deal for a lot of people. I think it's a big deal for me. I think that's something that many people will want to see and something that will be very helpful moving forward in the future because it really can demonstrate what Dyson is capable of doing. T1, I've seen the metrics. They look sexy, but can't leak it. Yeah, the metrics were leaked. So for those of you who were able to see those, congratulations. You saw the leaked info. For others, it will come in due time, hopefully sooner than later. It's definitely a privilege to be able to see that. But you know, like all these things, in due time it will be released. You know, people will see them. Ultimately, that's the point. So we will have those metrics, and I think that will be very helpful as a quote unquote selling point for Dyson, because of course you can now actually show the proper profit potential or at least historical profit of this concentrated liquidity solution, and it can really highlight Dyson's ALM solution much more efficiently with these real numbers, with this real information people can see and really grasp. So I think really good things to come from that alone. I mean, I used to be, right, before Sphere, I was just like you guys, and I still consider myself a community member and a team member. I know back in those days, this is the type of information that I would want to see personally, looking for different management solutions, LP solutions, yield farming strategies. I want to see how well something has been doing. So for Dyson to be able to finally show that is a really great thing. So I've hammered that enough. Let's move on. Some of you may also have seen regarding Penrose and Unknown that Conan Dystopia actually, the team actually said something about this, which was really nice to see. And basically, the message was that Conan Dystopia is a work in progress, and they did not abandon the project, as many people have suggested or accused them of. They just don't have an ETA in terms of finishing Conan Dystopia, so they ask kindly that people don't push them and such things. But ultimately, saying that DEXs are supposed to generate real profit, and the governance token is needed for the governance process, but ultimately they do plan to continue to work on Conan Dystopia, from which point we can then rework Penrose and Unknown. It's just one of those things where currently they do not have an ETA, so we're not going to push them because they have asked us not to, although I know that Sim many times has pushed them. So I did want to just mention that. For reference, this is what the Cone Dev says. Yes, that is exactly what I am referencing. Thank you, T1. So you have those there in this AMA chat to take a look at. I'll have them briefly on the YouTube live stream as well, so you can take a look if you're watching later, just as a reference. So again, and this is something we've said before about Penrose and Unknown, that they are on the back burner, essentially in hibernation, while we're waiting for the Cone Dystopia team to upgrade their protocols so that we can then go in and upgrade ours. So that is that. Next, I'm sure many of you saw that we announced our marketing partner was none other than Scribe. They specialize in content, in growth, and public relations for Web3. And they have been working with many different projects, including the DeFi Edge, Gains Network. Of course, we have our GNS Pool Vault in Dyson, and many others. So if you're interested in exploring more about Scribe, I figured I would just plop this in an archive in AMA board, just so if anyone was interested in taking a look through what they offer. And we're very happy to be working with them. Hey Spongy, welcome. All right. So in my questing through the Sphere chats, one of the things I stumbled upon was quite a few questions actually about ylSPHERE, about the vAPR, about vSphere, and eventually vESPHERE. So I did want to cover that again generally, so that we can once again kind of work through that at least conceptually, so that we're prepared when it comes. So Sphere is not inflationary. It is actually deflationary, and vSphere is not an inflation of the Sphere supply. If anything, it helps it be deflationary based on its inherent mechanisms. So with vSphere, yield from the treasury will be used to buy Sphere off the open market, which in and of itself should help support the liquidity of Sphere. And then that Sphere can be distributed to ylSPHERians, which are yield-locked Spherians. That vSphere then can be used in a couple of different ways. It can be vested for a user-specified period of time to receive liquid Sphere tokens. And if the user does not select the maximum amount of time for that vesting, then basically the difference will be burned. The remaining Sphere from based on that vesting period will be burned. So if you don't vest for max, a portion of those Spheres, Sphere tokens will be burned. Basically, you are paying for the convenience of receiving immediate or more rapid liquidity in the form of Sphere tokens. The alternative is that you'll be able to zap vSphere into ylSPHERE as well. So there's a different mechanisms there for different users and their interests. So vSphere is not to be confused with vEPHERE, though obviously for simple reasons it can easily be confused. vEPHERE is the next stage of Sphere itself. It is Sphere v3 when we transition from ylSPHERE to vEPHERE, which is an 8020 LP itself, and that will be the governance token of Sphere and its entire ecosystem, which is very cool. That's actually the part of Sphere I'm most excited for personally, to be able to use Sphere to its full capabilities once everything in the ecosystem is built out enough that it makes sense to transition to vEPHERE and actually start to mobilize the Sphere Treasury's governance for potential bribes for vEPHERE holders. Don't forget also that because vEPHERE is a vested token, of course there is a lock period associated with that. However, through Dyson, we will be able to have our own liquid wrapper solution for vEPHERE itself, which will be ylSPHERE, such that users will be able to still earn yield from the entire Sphere ecosystem without having to commit to the time lock of vEPHERE. The only downside to that is you will be sacrificing, or forfeiting your voting rights to vEPHERians. But if you're just in it for the yield, it doesn't really matter too much because ylSPHERE will grant you access to that yield. Team Clarendora, vSphere is a perfect solution all around. Props to the team for this idea. Much appreciated. Of course, that all those good ideas come from Sim. So props to him for his ability to think through these different possibilities and come to these solutions. I'm definitely excited for vSphere once that is live, because it's a cool way to be able to compound your Sphere, but still be earning blue chip Matic rewards that you can then use in different ways, either compound or use separately, which actually I wanted to talk about as well, which is current different strategies that you can use within the Sphere ecosystem, because there are different strategies right now. And if it weren't for the upcoming launch of Prion, potentially something I could do with the YouTube videos is really focus on some different ecosystem strategies that you can actively use right now, right? So as you are a ylSPHERE staker, you're earning this WMATIC yield, right? And you can either claim it or compound it. So right there you have a couple of different options. If you want to compound it, that in and of itself is a strategy. If you want to claim it, you will then have your WMATIC rewards in your wallet. Now, that WMATIC you can then use in any way you see fit. One such strategy, keeping things within the ecosystem, is that you can easily zap that WMATIC into a UniV3 Dyson vault, such as the WMATIC USDC, WMATIC WETH, WMATIC USDT, or the WMATIC Curve pools. And of course, with the new metrics of Dyson coming soon, very soon, you will then be able to kind of pick apart which UniV3 vault you might be most interested in. So that is a way to basically take the yield of your ylSPHERE and earn yield on it. So you're getting yield on yield if you don't want to compound. Of course, you could also do different iterations of this, like compound 1 week, claim another week. There's infinite possibilities. Just trying to establish some ideas for people who may not know what they want to do. Of course, within that realm, you can also claim that WMATIC and literally do anything else you would possibly want with that, because it is a liquid token that can be sold, it can be swapped, it can be simply held, all these different things that you could possibly think of. There's also The ST-matic, BBAW-matic, BPT compounding vault within Dyson as well, where you can take that W-matic, go to Balancer, create that LP, and deposit stake that BPT, I should say, in Dyson, and earn yield on that as well. Correct. So Team Claradora mentioned that this W-matic can be saved for V3, which is also a very good point because Sphere V3 will require 80% Sphere, 20% W-matic within the same liquidity pool. So for your Sphere that you wish to vote escrow, you will need 20% of the value in W-matic in order to do so. So this is a way to start to build up some W-matic rewards that you can then use. And of course, if you want to start earning yield on that W-matic, that's when you can say, okay, I'm going to put it into a Uni V3 vault in the meantime. I'm going to put it into this balancer BPT, into the auto compounding vault in Dyson, for example. Or maybe you just want to play it conservative, keep it as W-matic, or as a liquid stake derivative like ST-matic, for example. All of these things are open possibilities. I can't take this music anymore. I will listen to the AMA later. All right, I don't really know what that means, but take care, Brass. All right. My voice? Oh. Is my voice musical? I'm still confused. It's okay. All right. Music to our ears. Well, thank you. Much appreciated. I'm glad you enjoy my ramblings. It makes me feel happy. All right. Next up, I wanted to again going through the different chats in the Discord. Something that came up kind of as a recurring theme is price. Right, to the charts, the market conditions, the current price, people saying, when is the price going to turn around? All of these different things. So I felt I should at least address it in some ways. The first being to say that none of us know what's going to happen in the markets. It is always a big question. Obviously, we can form opinions based on different news and things happening in the different ecosystems. I'm not going to say more beyond that. But in general, when you're in a bear market, green is viewed as an opportunity to sell, not to buy. But when you're in a bull market, green is an opportunity to buy instead of sell. So kind of think about it this way. If you're looking for relief in price and you're hoping that the price is going higher, what is your motivation behind that? Most likely or possibly it's to be like, okay, if the price pumps, then I can sell and make a profit. Well, that's what everyone else with that mindset is also thinking. And that is that kind of, sorry to say, but it's a shorter term mindset where you're thinking, I see a green candle and I want to sell. So thinking in those terms, no music here. Thinking in these terms, that's kind of the essence of a bear market. We're looking for a relief of the price, right? But our focus at Sphere, the vision for Sphere that we have, is on a long-term value, a long-term appreciation of value based on what we are building, this ecosystem that's being built out. If we were here for the short term, we would have left long ago before the hardships really struck of the bear market. So we have been building and we keep building. And the difficulty is that it takes just a few minutes to talk and explain things and discuss things, but it then takes months to build out these things. So there's a lot of patience that is required, which also means that there's a lot of patience required of you guys in the community, which we certainly appreciate, but it's difficult, right? It's difficult for you to know what should be coming, to know what's in the pipeline, and not see it, and kind of go, week after week after week, a feeling of like, where is this, right? What is happening? Where behind the scenes we are building, building, building. So we want to place that emphasis on the value of our ecosystem, on the synergies it allows. This kind of goes down to chart versus potential. This is value, what we are able to build and accomplish. It also involves proving ourselves, right? Instilling confidence in people, going through the different trials of the market and demonstrate that this is a battle-tested ecosystem, right? This is a long-term focus versus a short-term focus. So I just kind of wanted to address that in that way, trying to be as general as I possibly can, because obviously I can't give financial advice, all these different things. Your decision is your own ultimately, but I did want to state that. Now, I do see the question from Limax. Is it true burns are coming back? Not burns, vSphere. Just catching up on the chat. Catching up on the chat. Good. Okay. Thank you, T1, for addressing that. All right. Within this same kind of frame of the chart price, the market conditions, I saw this comment in the Sphere chat that I wanted to touch upon, which is kind of directed towards the Sphere ecosystem as a whole, which basically boils down to why Sphere. And so the question was, who is the target market for an ecosystem like this? Is it primarily for individuals, or can other projects, exchanges, etc. use this ecosystem to farm their own assets? So it goes on, but just to address that, the target market for an ecosystem like this is actually very broad, because many different levels of users can potentially benefit from the different ecosystem components that we are building. And just think about it with Prion, right? There are a lot of potential strategies that you can engage in with Prion in terms of depositing collateral, borrowing the star stablecoin, eventually getting involved with vEPrion, OPrion emissions, call options. So there's a lot of material there that you can get involved with, but more simply, stretching way back the other way, is the Sphere token itself, which is looking to simplify all of these different strategies down into just one token, such that Sphere has an allocation of vEPrion. Sphere is receiving yield from Prion. So you don't, as a user, have to necessarily worry about Prion and these other ecosystem components if you don't want to. If you're nervous about it or concerned about it or don't fully understand it, that's okay. You can simply focus on the Sphere token because everything is funneling back to Sphere. So this is a very broad range that we are looking to basically market to, I guess is the word I use. This ecosystem is for everybody. Every range of user can potentially benefit from this ecosystem. And that also extends to other projects. Right? Just look at Kronos, how we are partnering with them and able to assist their protocol as well. Look at Dyson and all of the liquid wrappers, extending from Kronos. The same type of idea where these different solutions can be for users and for protocols. Dyson's ALM, right? These solutions, again, can be useful for individuals and for projects. So there's a very broad reach for an ecosystem like this, which definitely makes it difficult to market because you now have many, many different pieces that might tailor to different sets of individuals. So it prevents a challenge, but it also presents a lot of opportunities to reach out to these communities, reach out to these people, and offer them something that they can use. So I did want to address that. And then kind of branching off from that, someone had mentioned if you're a sole investor looking at Sphere as a whole for the first time, I wonder if it all makes sense. But as a new buyer, there are other things out there that you can earn yield in crypto from. So why would I recommend Sphere from the others? And I think this is a very fair question. If you're a new investor looking at Sphere as a whole for the first time, I think potentially it can be very easy to get overwhelmed, right? Because we have so many different ecosystem components, there's so many different things that you can do. And I think it can be sometimes very confusing for people, potentially overwhelming for people who are just coming in and being like, what is this all about? Which is why I try to always go back to simplify. I tried combining two words there. Simplifying everything down back to Sphere. That is the whole point. That is the whole vision of the ecosystem. Everything gets simplified. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. Simplified back down into the Sphere token. And the yield distribution system of the Sphere token, which currently is ylSPHERE. So that's something I get excited about, because I think that is the job that we need to really focus on the most. But it's also quite challenging because we need all of the other ecosystem components in place before we can really then truly and fully market Sphere itself, because we need to see all of those integrations in place and working in a way that people can visually understand it, not just conceptually. I can talk about how conceptually all these things will work out, but it's hard to physically grasp until you can actually see it. And then branching from there, it becomes much easier to say, okay, all of these different things, what do they point to? Well, it's just more yield for the Sphere ecosystem ultimately. So that in and of itself, I think, is a huge reason for, quote unquote, why Sphere is this entire ecosystem. This is not something that's being done elsewhere, where we're creating all of these components ourselves, putting in the work ourselves to build each and every component to be able to synergize and integrate in ways that you ordinarily wouldn't be able to do. Or if you were able to do them, it would not be as capital efficient as we're able to do it, because we don't have to rely on any one component to produce yield for the whole ecosystem. A great example is Prion with zero interest borrowing. We don't have to rely on the interest of these loans because there's other ways that the fee structures come into play. For example, collateral being routed through to Dyson to generate yield for the depositors and for Prion Dyson Sphere, right? So there's so much there within the ecosystem in terms of why Sphere. Something that Sim mentioned on the recent AMA with Kronos, I think is worth bringing up also under the, why Sphere umbrella, is just the familiarity. If you are a DeFi user and you want to be able to participate in all these different opportunities, strategies yourself, you actually want to get into the details. What Sphere will offer is an ability to actively engage in a lot of these different strategies, all under one umbrella. So there's a familiarity there, there's a comfort there, there's a confidence there, especially as things are battle tested and proven over time. That is a huge component. Look at how long it took Bitcoin to become battle tested. Look at how long it took Ethereum to become battle tested. These types of confidence barriers apply to every new project. There has to be a staying power and a demonstration of what can be done for a prolonged period of time before people feel more comfortable and confident in what is being done. But having it all under one umbrella in terms of why Sphere can really help bolster that confidence. We also have, of course, all of our different partnerships that help boost our ecosystem and theirs. And ultimately, going a step further into the end game of Sphere, with it being this meta governance token, where not only the yield from the ecosystem is going to Sphere, but the governance of that entire ecosystem is being routed through to the power of the vEPHERE token. So I don't know how else to say why Sphere beyond all of that, which is an incredible amount conceptually. Once again, conceptually, of what the Sphere ecosystem is bringing, but it still falls back on that. Okay, this that we can talk about it conceptually, but we also need to see it, and to see it, we have to build it, and building takes months and months and months. So that is what we will be doing. Indeed, and we will see it. Oh man, we're so close. All right. I did want to mention, I did want to mention that congrats to the community poker tournament. I definitely don't do this enough. So we have Pixel Crypto came in first and got $200 worth of Sphere, and then Stenzy6 came in second for $100 worth of Sphere. Not sure who came in third. Sorry about that, but congratulations to you as well. So if you have not yet partaken or tested your skills in the community poker tournaments, just remember that they are free to join. There is no cost associated with joining in on these tournaments. So you are free to test your poker skills and see how far you can get. Even if you've never played poker before, give it a try and just see. Go where the flow takes you. T1, I tried mastering poker. I'm so bad I even use cheat sheets to know what different types of hands they are. Don't feel bad about that, because I had never played poker myself before, I'm ashamed to admit, until we did a team game, and I also had to use cheat sheets to know the different types of hands because I had no idea. And I think I made it to the top like 4 or 5, having never played before. So it is possible to place in the top 3 without ever playing before. There is Sphere available as a reward for free for those winners. So there's no reason not to play, unless of course time and the timing is against you. All right. Very good. So next I will move into the questions. And there's a couple of them, and I see some new ones. And I'm just catching up because... Yeah, okay. Good questions. Send vSphere, sir. Village is hungry. All very soon. All in due time. I know it's hard. Again, this is the, talking about it takes minutes, but then building it takes much longer. So the patience aspect is challenging. It's challenging for us, so I know it's more challenging for you. But the kids. Will somebody think of the children? Oh, funny. Okay. All right. So in terms of these questions, we have Khan, K-O-N, who asked, does the Sphere team have an internal schedule you are working to? Do you have internal goals, release dates for different parts of the ecosystem? If you do have a schedule, are you on track or behind? If you're behind, is anyone looking at cutting rewards or hiring more devs to get back on track? Or are other solutions to expedite release of different projects in the ecosystem? Of course. Of course, we have internal schedules and goals and release dates. Of course we do. And we are on track, and we do have a plan. I don't really know how else to respond to that. If things are going to take more time, then we take more time to get it done so that it is done properly. I'm not sure what else to say beyond that. I kind of laughed a little bit with this question, but just because I sensed a lot of impatience behind this, and perhaps some frustration about the process. That's kind of what I'm sensing with this question. And you know what? Again, that is okay. I understand it's difficult when you yourself cannot see that internal schedule. But yes, of course, we are organized. We have a plan, and we're working on that plan, or based on that plan. All right. Pakook. It's a great name to say. I appreciate the amount of time and effort you put in creating Prion, but what would happen if people are not willing to risk their capital by borrowing against it? What then? How would Prion and Sphere earn money on it? I worry that there may not be much interest from investors, especially at the current market sentiment. I appreciate your response. Thanks. So first off, the way that you phrased, the way that you phrased this made me think that you were suggesting that you would borrow against Prion, like the Prion token. And that is not how it works, right? You're borrowing against collateral, and what Prion is offering is borrowing against blue chip collateral and liquid staking derivative collateral, such as Balancer, liquid stake derivative finance, such as like wrap staked ETH, RETH, and that is a huge market. There is a huge market and interest in liquid stake derivatives, liquid stake derivative finance, having liquid stake derivatives in liquidity pool tokens. There is a huge interest in that. So to be able to then take that and put it up as collateral and borrow against it is quite massive and will interest a lot of different people. So, based on that alone, I think there's a perhaps an understanding gap there. You're not putting Prion up as collateral. You are putting up blue chip tokens as collateral, right? Yield bearing blue chips, such that you are earning yield. You have a loan at 0% interest, so you can expand your liquidity, your assets available on hand to yield farm. So there's a lot there that would incentivize people, but not just individuals too, but also protocols. Say protocols that have a treasury full of ETH that they want to put to use and borrow against. They're of course able to do that as well. But let's say all else fails and no one is interested in using Prion. We would be very sad. But ultimately, the Sphere Treasury could still use these strategies to generate more yield for Spherians. That is always something that can be done. It is all ultimately under the umbrella of Sphere, such that we can utilize our different ecosystem components ourselves. But I hope that clarifies the question. I think the crux of this question, the turning point, is what is actually being borrowed against, and it is not the Prion token itself. So that is a key point in understanding how Prion finance works. Right. Couple other questions. T1 asking some questions here. Are there any downsides to the stability pool on Prion for those that want to deposit STAR? And I saw that Lilo had responded to this, but I'll expand a bit upon it. So within the stability pool, you can become a stability provider and deposit STAR. And when you do that and deposit STAR, basically, when liquidations occur, the protocol Prion will take the STAR that you deposited and in return will give you the liquidated collateral. So Sim is also working on a vault where within Dyson that liquidated collateral will be converted to more STAR. So basically you're just auto compounding your STAR. But what happens if there aren't any liquidations, right? In those situations, the yield is quite minimal because you're not being given any liquidated collateral. So that is the downside of depositing to this stability pool, is it's not like a liquidity pool where you're constantly earning swap fee revenue. You're only earning when there are liquidations. So thanks again to Lilo for responding to that. I see some additional questions here from T1 within that. Are there any plans to vest Prion for whitelisters that buy Prion when the presale happens to prevent initial dumps? So basically what I can say about this is the details of how the presale will move forward will be discussed in time. So I really can't say too much about how that will happen. Except to say that we are mindful of that potential and are looking at ways for how we can mitigate those risks. Any rough idea on the different lock periods for vEPR? All that has been publicly disclosed to this point is that the max lock will be 1 year duration. All right. Good questions, though. DeBillionaire, tell me how to make monies. What is best strategy? Where do I put DeBillions? Yes, indeed. I cannot tell you what to do with your money. All I can do is provide education to the best of my ability so that you can make informed decisions on your own. So that's all I can say about that. Oops. All right. Okay, so disclaimer aside, say it anyway. It's not even a disclaimer. Like that is my advice. It's a step. Saying do your own research is kind of like, I don't know, petty. But it's more about, how can I best educate you so that you understand the possible strategies you could use, and then how do you define the risk that you're willing to take on the capital you're looking to deploy, and then how do you understand those risks, right? So people are comfortable with different levels of risk. That's why you have people who are primarily stablecoin farmers. In the traditional market, you have people who are solely focused on bonds, or high interest bonds, low interest bonds, treasury bonds, these sorts of things. And then you have folks with a higher risk tolerance who are more interested in volatile assets like stocks, equities, real estate, and of course, currently the most volatile of them all, crypto, the large cap crypto like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and of course, you have the micro projects in the DeFi realm, which includes yours truly, Sphere. So it takes a lot of understanding this risk tolerance in terms of what you're willing to deploy, understanding to the best of your ability what those potential risks are, and then allocating your funds appropriately. T1 PT, can you please sing for us? Where did this come about? Why is it such that I am being asked to sing, man? I don't get it. I don't understand. All right, Team Clardo, if you have billions, just put in a 4% savings account and make 40 million per year per billion, and then go on a vacation for the next few years. Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, there are high yield savings accounts that offer this yield. What they don't tell you is it doesn't really make up for the inflation rate. If you're in the U.S., depends in other countries on the interest rates and the inflation rates, but what? This was brought up months ago, and I said I would sing for you one day? Did I? Really? I vouch Pandu? Oh man. Getting a slap down by Pandu. Well, if that's truly the case. Oh, the rap lyrics. That wasn't me. Oh, I see. I see. Wasn't that Cyril who created the lyrics? And then, yeah, my brother actually made the song. I don't remember that I ever promised to sing, though. Huh. I think all y'all might be pulling my leg. Mm-hmm. Team Clarador. If I had billions, I'm not worried about inflation. Are you, though? I would still be. You, Panda, you have it tattooed on your arm, the promise that I will sing. Oh, man. Oh, man. PT Feet Lilo, Priot will make it happen. Oh, boy. Uh, I guess the best I can do is say I will consider it. I will consider it. Uh, oh man. I will consider it and see what can be done, but I cannot make any promises about singing. You guys are awesome, though. Oh man. Well, I love where we have derailed too. This is great. Um, well, to be fair, to be fair now, we're at the end of our AMA. Um, I went through all of my agenda, all the AMA questions. You know, I will see what I can possibly think of to do with this whole singing situation. Like I said, I can't make any promises, but I think it's awesome that you guys are so persistent on this. Um, hey, I said to one. I'm not making any promises, but it is in the consideration stage. All right. With that, with that, yes, indeed, tea is good for your singing voice. I agree. With that, guys, I will end the AMA here. Gosh. Thank you all so much for showing up, for being here, for asking your questions, for participating. I love the engagement, and it's so great to see you guys every week. And I look forward to talking with you guys next time. Always remember, you matter for who you are. T1, that's special. That's awesome. All right, y'all. All right. Until next time, take care and bye-bye. See you guys.